I grew up in the United States since I was 4 years old, and where I grew up didn't have a particularly large Asian population. Like maybe 3 to 4% of the Asians where I lived, the people where I lived were Asian, and then of that 3 4%, many were also like Indian or South Asian. So I don't know what percentage that cuts it down to, but basically, I grew up in an area with not a lot of Asian people, so I was aware that like stereotypes existed. Like I knew the whole like eating dogs and cat thing. Uh, I know that people made fun of the way Asian people talks, and just for being different. So like yeah, people who, particularly with children, if they notice things about people that are different from what they believe is normal, then they're gonna make fun of it, and that's just kind of like the way people are. But other than that, like I wasn't that familiar with other Asian stereotypes. I first didn't learn about the whole thing about Asians not being able to drive until later on, when I first heard it from someone, a friend of mine, when I had moved away from home and was in the military. Even then, I mean, there were Asian people in there, but maybe more than than back home. Possibly, I'm not sure, or similar. But I didn't hear that until then. I also didn't know about the small penis thing until then either. That was my first time hearing that. And when you go into like go to Google, internet, like looking up these things, um, I also learned for the first time, like uh, and until like I'm already in adulthood, I didn't know that there is the stereotype that Asians are viewed as less strong or weaker than people of other races. So I didn't know that was a thing until I looked it up on the internet. And so when you go into uh, that rabbit hole, you learn some interesting things. But so apparently, there was a study. Like the purpose of the study, I think, was more so to do with to learn more about diabetes risk, depending on different populations. So when you compare somebody of East Asian descent to a white person of the same body mass index, so the same height and weight, when you even accounting for that, they say that Asian people tend to have less bone and skeletal muscle density, or bone density and skeletal muscle mass compared to white people, and also have a higher body fat percentage. So but even though, like, when you first hear that, that might be discouraging, but everything has context. So the reason why Asian people or East Asian people have particular phenotypes, or the way they look compared to other people of other races, is that it's an adaptation to the places where they've lived for like thousands of years. So, for example, people of the East Asian look was an adaptation to cold temperatures in Northeast Asia, and being around a lot of snow. So Asian people, their bodies were meant for were adapted to colder environments. So even Asian eyes, it helps with protection against sun glare off of snow. So protects from snow glare damage, and Asian people, compared to people of other races, tend to have longer torsos and shorter limbs. And so the larger torso and head um, helps with retaining heat in cold temperatures, and also the shorter limbs. So whereas like the body and head have uh, a more volume versus surface area, the limbs are comparatively narrower, so it has more surface area compared to volume, so that uh, um, is more prone to cold related uh, injury or harm. So therefore, people adapted to have shorter limbs to adapt to the cold, and also having shorter limbs will lower your center of gravity. So you have more stability on slippery, icy surfaces, and it decreases the distance you travel down when you fall slipping on ice. So these were also adaptations to the cold environment that Asian people adapted from. So if you compare two people the same height and weight, and one person has a longer torso and shorter legs, and the other has a shorter torso and longer legs, then obviously the person with longer legs, due to the legs being where you have the most muscle mass in any place in your body, then like it's obvious and you'll have more muscle mass. So just by being longer, you have longer muscles, so you're likely going to have more muscle mass. And then considering that Asian people generally are less obese, there's more of a range in body types with people who are not Asian. So if you're comparing a white person to the body mass index of a typical Asian person, then the white person may be more fitness minded. So in order to get to that weight, they might exercise more, whereas opposed to a typical Asian person, which they vary too, but there's like a smaller range of people's body mass index, because you don't see a whole lot of like really like fat or heavy Asian people. So that's more of the norm as opposed to somebody exercising to maintain the weight. So that could account for the muscle mass difference, and that difference may not actually be a disadvantage in like physical performance. Like for example, Asian weightlifters, they dominate their weight class due to having shorter limbs will allow someone to lift heavier weights with less effort, because there's less distance to travel with the shorter limbs. So you can so if somebody's lifting like 400 pounds, 500 pounds, then it takes more effort for somebody with longer limbs to lift that weight as opposed to for someone with shorter legs and arms. So there is that advantage. So you can lift heavier weights with less muscle mass due to that. And again, back to the lower center of gravity due to having shorter legs. The boxer Inoue, the Japanese boxer Inoue, considered among many to be one of, if not the best pound for pound boxer in the world right now, and his next bout will be also against a Japanese boxer who's also 32-0. During the 70s and 80s, South Korea also had large representation in professional boxing. And this may be due to some certain advantage due to having the shorter limbs and long torso body type, which allows you to have a lower center of gravity, so better balance, more stability, so it's more difficult to knock you down. And having the shorter limbs means you can generate quicker punches, quicker strikes, because you have a less distance to travel to get to the point of a punch where you can deliver the most force, and you have more powerful close range punches like jabs and uppercuts are typically better to execute when you're shorter or have shorter limbs. So any perceived disadvantage is gone. So even though you have a reach disadvantage, but you're able to generate more force in a shorter distance, and then you can deliver like punches faster because you have shorter arms. All in all, so then again, like I think maybe more so is the whole thing with in order to get down to the weight of a typical Asian person, somebody who is not Asian may have to exercise more to get to that body mass index. So I think the whole thing is kind of moot. So no race is more athletic than the other or superior in any way. Race is a social construct, and it has more to do with geography of where you're from. So even people in Africa being the most genetically diverse place in the world. People in like East Africa are better distance runners, and like people from West Africa tend to be better sprinters due to where they live. So yep. Um, and then though these differences occur, like people are generally uh, um, pretty more than not genetically closer because we're all human beings. So that being said, yeah, stop pushing negative stereotypes. Stop pushing negative stereotypes because it makes me mad.